The question is always, how do a book start? How do you think, or at what moment you can say, this is the starting of my book? And this book starts in a moment I will always remember. It was in France, Charlie Hebdo, January 2015. And we have this terrorist shot. And I discovered it on the television. I was so shocked, like everybody, because I didn't think that kind of thing can arrive in this country. And 1 week later, we had a Kolofata shock too. And I felt so weak and wounded, and it was just like all my world was broken. The place I was coming from, the place I was living in, everything was just broken, and it was broken by the same violence.
I didn't get any particular memo from my publisher saying that you shouldn't do this, do this. My mandate was just to translate primarily for sub-Saharan African English-speaking audience. But I knew that I didn't have to be narrow-minded in that sense. I had to make sure that even if that was my starting point, the final product had to be able to speak or appeal to the wider English-speaking audience, be it in Africa or beyond. So throughout my translation process, of course, I first of all translated completely. It's only at the end, because I know that Hemley is quite committed. I wouldn't be each thing going back to her. So it's only at the end that I reached out to her for certain things which needed her insider input, because she's an artist. Artists, they write at certain point in time. Inspiration is not something you can necessarily explain. So if you have to go back to the source, like what did you mean here? What is the intent here? So it's at the end that I went back to her, and then she so graciously responded, and I was able to fill in the blank spaces.
Chandy a fait une traduction de 30 pages qui nous a d'abord soumis à mon agent et moi pour savoir ce qu'on en pensait. Et moi j'étais complètement ravie, mais je ne dis rien parce que ce n'est pas ma spécialité. Mon agent était tellement content de ces 30 pages qu'il les a proposées au marché anglophone mondial, à la vente. C'est comme ça que ça se fait en fait. On propose le livre à la vente en disant si ça vous intéresse, vous achetez les droits et puis on continue la traduction et vous éditez de votre côté. Et les 30 pages que Chandy a traduites ont été vendues à l'éditeur américain. Donc déjà c'est pour dire la qualité du travail qui a été fait à la base. Ensuite, l'éditeur américain, parce que les Américains travaillent comme ça, ils ont leur traducteur à eux, ils n'aiment pas en changer. Ils ont leur traducteur, ils ont leur marché, ils ont leurs automatismes, et il a proposé donc de donner le reste de la traduction à son traducteur habituel. Et moi, on a dit non. On a dit, écoutez, si vous avez aimé l'amorce de ce qui a été fait, il convient que ce traducteur continue le travail. Il a déjà fait la preuve de ce qu'il était capable de faire. Il connaît le contexte. Il est capable non seulement de traduire les mots, mais de traduire l'esprit, l'atmosphère, de remettre tout en contexte, ce qu'un traducteur américain ne comprendra peut-être pas. Et c'est comme ça que Chandy s'est occupé de toutes les traductions en fait. La traduction africaine et aussi la traduction américaine et toutes les traductions de ce livre. Il va sortir en Afrique du Sud aussi. Et ce travail-là a été fait par le même traducteur.
Somebody like Anna, for example, who is dying, who has cancer. She's a woman who has seen life, all of it. And as she's dying, she is not in a hurry. So she measures every word. She takes her time. Whereas if you find scenes where you have the youths, Tina and Max, there is quite this speed to it. The way they speak is very, very intense. It's so infused. So to be able to capture that, what I did each time I was translating, for example, Anna, and those scenes where there was a lot of reverie, she's remembering, I tried to use multisyllabic words so that it slows down the reading experience for whoever is reading. So that in a way that I struggle in some way to simulate the atmosphere, I don't know if it's a tenderness or whatever, the cold ambience that you have, somebody in a room, in a hospital, somebody who is dying. So, but when it came to those scenes where you have the youth speaking, they are all exuberant, there is this youthful vitality in them, they speak so intensely, so you tend to go for monosyllabic words, that is so that it's paced through, it's very, very quick, and in a sense, at the level of at the verbal level, you are able to reflect their youth.
Et c'est ça qui est que j'ai tellement aimé dans le travail de Chandy, parce qu'il y a aussi effectivement chaque personnage a un ton. Anna ne parle pas comme Abby, qui ne parle pas comme les jeunes, et c'est parfaitement respecté ce changement de ton correspondant à chaque personnage est parfaitement respecté dans la traduction, et effectivement ça ne doit pas être facile. Je me suis dit en lisant que ça ne doit pas être facile pour un traducteur de remettre parce que c'est des nuances, c'est juste des mots à la place d'autres mots, et il pourrait ne pas s'apercevoir que la tonalité change, mais Chandy est vraiment dans le respect de cette tonalité-là. En revanche, il a dit quelque chose qui me fait sourire, à quoi je n'avais jamais pensé, de dire que sa question à lui, c'était pas de dire qu'un noir va traduire le livre du noir ou d'un Camerounais, le livre d'une Camerounaise, mais très souvent il s'est posé la question de sa légitimité en tant qu'homme de traduire mon livre à moi, une femme.
I think the portion where you have poetry, which Daniel read so excellently, is towards the end. And I must tell you, at that point in time, I was saturated, I was tired. I was tired. But in a sense, being tired gave me the calm to be able to approach the poetry differently, because I know this is the finale of sorts, and I can't miss the finale. So at that point in time, I took the calm, and two, it's dealing at that point in time, it's the anguish of love that is not going to be reciprocated at that point in time. That's love is it's a very, how do I call it? It's a shared human emotion. I myself have been in love, I'm in love, so it was easy for me to tap. Poetry often came up when there were these emotions which I could easily relate to. So for me, at that point in time, all I had to do was put myself in the situation of the character and see how best I could capture the nuances of the loss, the anguish that was dripping from each word and from each stanza.
Hemley, why did they keep this come and go? But first, I would like Melvin, because he's the one who translated, and people believe that he chose the title.
Equally too, the issue of the title, I need people to understand that when you see a book like this, they need to understand that there are several voices, that this is a combination of so many voices. That is, first of all, you have the author's voice, which is there. You have the translator too, who leaves part of himself there. There's equally the publisher too, then equally the audience. When you start thinking with respect to audiences, they ask like, what are the tastes of this audience which we want to capture? Those are some of the things that go into dictating which title and which choices should be made. So for me, I think generally people should just have in mind, they should ask themselves that does this title work? They shouldn't be uncomfortable with the fact that maybe that since it's so similar to the French source, maybe not enough thinking went into it, not enough brainstorming. No, I think it works. If you think it works, then people shouldn't bother themselves so much.
Mais la version espagnole aussi, ils ont choisi telle quelle. Par exemple, sur les maquisards, la version allemande, ils n'ont pas gardé les maquisards, ils ont traduit le chant des disparus. Donc, en revanche, pour les jours viennent et passent, tout, y compris la traduction néerlandaise, ils ont tous traduit mot à mot les jours viennent et passent. Donc, comme disait Chandy, ça veut dire si c'est pas cassé, on va pas le réparer. Ça veut dire que le titre fonctionne.
When I was done really translating and reading at the same time, if anybody asks me my take-home message from this novel, that what it talks about, for me it's the anguish of lost love. That's all I see inside. That is, be it agape love, filial love, or even the other kinds of love. It's at every point is the anguish of losing a parent, the anguish of losing a lover, the anguish of losing somebody.
Un traducteur autre que camerounais va traduire le terme argotique tel quel. Donc il va lui faire perdre sa saveur. Ce ne sera pas la même chose. Lui, ce qu'il a fait, c'est qu'il a fait une traduction qui va plus se rapprocher du pidgin English. Et du coup, voilà, ça s'intègre dans le texte en anglais, mais il fallait y penser.
That we will never be as free, as strong as in this fragile, distinct moment. That what isn't today is lost forever, because madness looms and death pulls right now. Right here, right waiting now, is when we must love each other. But I will wait, because I must, because you asked me to.